everyone in the session of EIGRP Stub configuration. My name is Kedar Dandekar and I am a Cisco certified internet network expert in enterprise infrastructure. So if you have any question, then please feel free to mail me on kedartandekar@nittraining.in. So our first task is to configure the EIGRP classic mode on all the routers. So let's start with router 1. So on router 1 we have to advertise the network 200.100.0.0, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and 4.0. Now router 2. So on router 2 we have to advertise the network 200.100.0.0 and the LAN network is 195.168.0.0, 192.168.1.0 and 2.0. Now router 3. So on router 3 we have to advertise the network 200.100.2.0 and the LAN network is 197.168.0.0. After that 194.168.1.0 and 2.0. Now router 4. So on router 4 we have to advertise the network 200.100.1.0. After that 196.168.0.0 LAN network and 193.168.1.0 and 2.0. Now router 5. So on router 5 the network is 200.100.3.0 and the LAN network is 198.168.2.0. Now router 6. So on router 6 we have to advertise the network 200.100.4.0 and LAN network is 199.168.1.0. So we have configured the EIGRP classic mode configuration on all the routers. Now next task is to configure the summarization on router 4 so that it will advertise a single summary route for both LAN 5 and LAN 6 network. So this is my router 4, so we have to configure the EIGRP summarization on router 4 so that he will advertise a single summary route for LAN 5 and LAN 6 towards router 1. Okay. So my interface will be E0/3, so router 4 now, and interface will be E0/3 and now IP summary address EIGRP 10, summary address will be 193.168.0.0, subnet mask will be 255.255.252.0. and now if we verify the routing table of router 1, so here we can see that router 1 is receiving the summary address 193.168.0.0 in his routing table for both LAN 5 and LAN 6 network. Now after that we have to configure the EIGRP stub configuration on router 3 so that he will not receive any EIGRP queries. Also we have to verify that router 3 should only advertise directly connected networks but not a summary route to router 1. Okay. So now if we verify the routing table of router 1, so currently we can see that router 1 is receiving the LAN 7 network which is 197.168.0.0 in his routing table. Also router 1 is receiving the summary address for LAN 8 and LAN 9 network. Okay, so which is 194.168.0.0. Okay, so router 1 is receiving these two networks, LAN 7 network and the summary address 194.168.0.0 from router 3. But the task is saying that router 3 should not advertise any summary network towards router 1. So for that now we can do one thing, we can remove the summary address from router 1. Okay, so after that router 1 will not advertise any summary address, he will advertise the directly connected network for LAN 7, LAN 8 and LAN 9. But now the task is also saying that router 3 should not receive any EIGRP queries. So for that now we have to configure the router 3 as a stub now. So EIGRP stub, and now we will use the keyword connected here. Okay, so now After using the keyword connected, now router 3 will only advertise the directly connected networks. He will not advertise the summary addresses, okay, towards router 1. Now if we check the routing table of router 1 again, so now we can see that router 1 is receiving the specific networks for LAN 8 and LAN 9. LAN 8 and LAN 9. Okay, so 194.168.1.0, which is the network of LAN 8, and 194.168.2.0, which is the network of LAN 9. Okay, so he is receiving the specific network for both LAN 8 and LAN 9. Also, he is receiving the specific network for LAN 7, 197.168.0.0. Okay, now router 3 is not advertising the summary network towards router 1. Now after that we have to configure the router 4 so that he will not receive any EIGRP query. Also we have to verify that router 4 should advertise summary route but not a directly connected networks to router 1. So now same thing again, if we verify the routing table of router 1, so currently we can see that router 1 is receiving the 196.168.0.0, the network of LAN 4 from router 4. Okay, also he is receiving the summary address 193.168.0.0 from router 4, which we have configured in the previous task. Okay, so router 1 currently is receiving the summary address from router 4 for LAN 5 and LAN 6. Also he is receiving the specific network of LAN 4 196.168.0.0, but the task is saying that router 4 should only advertise the summary address. He should not advertise the directly connected networks. Also router 4 should not receive any EIGRP query. So for that again same thing here, we have to configure the router 4 as a stub now, and after that now we will add here the summary keyword. Okay, so after adding the summary keyword, now router 4 will only advertise the summary addresses towards router 1. Okay, so he will not advertise the directly connected networks. Okay, so if we verify the routing table of router 1 again, now router 1 is receiving the summary address 193.168.0.0 in his routing table, and he is not receiving the specific directly connected network LAN 4 network, which is 196.168.0.0 in his routing table. So he is only receiving the summary address. He is not receiving the directly connected network. So previously he was receiving the directly connected network 196.168.0.0, but now he is not receiving it. He is only receiving the summary address. After that we have to configure the router 6 so that he will not receive any EIGRP queries. Also we have to verify that router 6 should only receive the network but should not advertise the network of LAN 12 towards router 1. Okay, so the task is saying that router 6 should only receive the network. He should not advertise the LAN 12 network towards router 1. So if we verify this on router 1, so if we verify this on router 1, show IP route EIGRP, so we can see that router 1 is receiving the LAN 12 network 199.168.1.0 in his routing table. Sorry. So the task is saying that router 6 should only receive the network but he should not advertise the LAN 12 network towards router 1. Also router 6 should not receive the EIGRP queries also. So again the same thing, now we have to configure the router 6 as a stub, and now we have to configure the keyword receive only here. Okay, so now router 6 will only receive the network. He will not advertise the LAN 12 network towards router 1. Now if we verify the routing table of router 1 again, so we can see that previously router 1 was receiving the LAN 12 network 199.168.1.0. Now router 1 is not receiving the LAN 12 network in his routing table. So thanks for watching the video. If you have any question, then please feel free to mail me on kedargandikar@nittraining.in. Thank you.